Okay.
Have you ever wondered how the United States came to be recognized as one of the greatest imperial powers? 70 years ago, the global role of the United States and the life of Americans changed forever. And that is due to the Battle of D-Day, when Germany was doomed to lose World War II. Today I will commemorate the Battle of D-Day. I will describe the planning of the battle, I will explain what happened during the battle, I will go over the results of the battle, and I will describe how it is still remembered today. Planning of the battle was influenced by many factors around the world. In 1942, the battle in Stalingrad, which is present-day Volgograd, urged the Allies to help Russia. Joseph Stalin, the Soviet Russian leader at the time, needed the Allies to attack the Germans on the west so Russia could avoid a costly battle. With this strategy, Germany would not be able to keep its army intact in both fronts. The United States had been insisting the British about the attack since 1942, but once the Germans became weak and the oceans safer, the British gained the confidence. Finally, in 1943, the United States and Britain began planning the attack. This was known as Operation Overlord. Operation Overlord was led by U.S. Army General Dwight D. Eisenhower with the help of British General Bernard Montgomery. William Brewer, a soldier and specialized historian of the World War II period, explains how for nearly 2 years the most intense study, planning, and projections have been poured into the invasion by the most brilliant military minds in the Allied world. Operation Overlord came to be a very simple set of ideas: to locate the suitable beaches, to gather the necessary information, to isolate the battlefields by controlling the major networks, and to land the troops at the correct time. The chosen beaches were given code names and then divided into the forces. Here we see the English Channel, which divides Great Britain and France. The United States was in charge of Utah and Omaha beaches. The British would take Gold and Sword, and the Canadians would take Juno. Thank you. Weather was a very important factor to consider. The continued bad weather had delayed the invasion, but on June 4 of 1944, Eisenhower and his meteorologists saw a break on the bad weather. Since the invasion was amphibious, it was crucial to attack at a low tide to be able to detect the mines or the obstacles. Eisenhower made the decision to begin Operation Overlord on June 6 of 1944. Now that I have detailed how the Operation Overlord was planned, I will explain how the battle took place. After a long time of wait, the battle was about to begin. On June 6th, just after midnight, Eisenhower ordered 20,000 paratroops to commence the invasion. These men would secure the flanks and control the major roads and bridges. They were scattered in a way that the Germans had no idea of the magnitude of the invasion. Stephen Badsey, a professor of conflict studies at the University of Wolverhampton, describes how 2 hours after the paratroops arrived, nearly 2,000 Allied heavy and medium bombers began a 2-hour preliminary bombing of German defenses, followed by a bombardment of about 7 battleships, 18 cruisers, 43 destroyers, 2 gunboats, and a heavy gun monitor. At dawn, the greatest amphibious attack was being carved into history. A vast majority of the tanks never made it to shore. The German fire took many soldiers down and made it difficult to advance. Some brave men would blast holes in the obstacles to make paths. Some of these men were already injured and still risked their lives. Without the effort of these men, the infantry would not have been able to advance as quickly. This battle took a lot of soldiers and a lot of struggle, and now I'll explain how the overall results were positive. The end results were positive, but there was still a war to win. Although it was a hard, Operation Overlord was a success. The Allies dominated the skies. There were 11,000 casualties out of the 156,000 Allied men. And Stephen Ambrose, a history professor at the University of New Orleans, does a good job explaining how a soldier saw that day. He said, "D-Day will live with me till that day I die, and I'll take it to heaven with me. It was the longest, most miserable, horrible day that I or anyone else ever went through," which shows how hard it was for these guys to win this battle. On June 26th, Port Cherbourg was captured, and on August 25, Paris was finally liberated, forcing the Germans completely out of France. The end of the war was approaching. On January 16 of 1945, Germany is defeated in the Battle of the Bulge due to shortage of ammunition and to the great Allied resistance. On March, the United States troops crossed the Rhine, pushing the Germans further back. Hitler commits suicide on April 30th, and on May 7th of 1945, World War II is officially over. The results of the battle were written in history forever. I will describe now why this battle is still very significant. Why is this battle so important? Because without the surprise of Operation Overlord, World War II would have not ended. Without the battle, Germany would have taken over Russia, gained more power, and the world would not be the same. The Battle of D-Day changed the way the world viewed the Allies, and especially the United States. This battle was the greatest amphibious attack ever conducted, and the intense planning and timing influenced future military groups into perfecting these strategies of Operation Overlord. The Battle of D-Day is one of the most significant events in military and human rights history. Today, I shared to you about the Battle of D-Day. I described the intense planning, I explained what happened during the battle, I went over the results of the battle, and I explained how it is still significant today. Understanding that the Battle of D-Day took a lot of soldiers' lives for the freedom of others is something to never forget. I encourage you to remember those who have fallen, to salute those who still live, and to be thankful for living in a country where freedom can be experienced without worries.
Eres, eres muy grabando.